Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I hope that everybody is doing well by the grace of Almighty. Stay home and stay safe. From the department, we are trying to help our students with online classes and also providing them materials through different platforms, online platforms, as well as Google Classrooms and some other platforms. So please be connected with your teachers so that you can continue your study and you can save at least a day from your academic life. So let's start. In this session on English 3113, Introduction to Linguistics 1, we will talk about immediate constituent analysis, that is IC analysis, tree diagram, surface structure and deep structure. These three are very important aspects of syntax or syntactic analysis. So let's start. So what is IC analysis or immediate constituent analysis? Immediate constituent analysis is a tool in structural linguistics. In our last session, I told you that there are two streams of linguistics in regards to syntax. One is structural linguistics and another is generative linguistics. In structural linguistics, syntax is seen as a structure of some elements, and these elements are called constituents. So we will have IC or immediate constituents as the elements of a sentence or syntax, and IC analysis analyzes the elements, the structural elements of a sentence. That is why it is called, it's a tool, it's a way of structural linguistics. This is called immediate constituent analysis. So you see that the constituent, as well as it is called immediate, that is just one comes after another. And of course it's a system of grammatical analysis, because we look at the syntactical structure from a grammatical point of view. It analyzes sentence structure. IC analysis was introduced by Leonard Bloomfield in 1933, and later on it was developed by Roland Wells and Jellic Harris. So what is IC analysis? IC analysis, of course, is a system of breaking down sentences into their smallest meaningful constituents or parts. Why? For analyzing their structure. So we can say that IC analysis is a system of analyzing the sentence structure, and with that purpose it breaks down the sentences into the smallest parts or constituents which are meaningful. So IC analysis aims at finding out the ultimate constituents, the final parts, after which there can be no further breaking down of the elements. So IC analysis aims at finding out the ultimate constituents of a sentence and their relationship with one another. So it is not only about breaking down the sentence or structure into its elements or constituents, but also it shows the relationship with one another, that is one with one part and another. The constituents, the parts, are nothing but the morphemes or groups of morphemes which, when structured into successive components from sentences, form sentences. Here successive component means you have some morphemes and then you join or combine some morphemes to produce a word, then words are combined to produce a phrase, and then clause, and finally you have the sentences. For example, here you have 4 words, or you can say 4 morphemes. Poor John ran away. Though ran is supposed to have 2 morphemes, ran plus ed, that is past morpheme. But So here you have 4 words or 4 morphemes, and then here Poor and John, these 2 morphemes combine, and they consist in a particular say a node or an element, another constituent. So you have Poor John, and again ran and away is in another, consist in another component or constituent greater than this ran away. And finally Poor John and ran away, these 2 components consist in or combined in a sentence, Poor John ran away, and you get the sentence. Or you can analyze the sentence from upward downwards. Say Poor John ran away, then structurally it has got some morphemes or some elements, like Poor John is subject and ran away is verb phrase, and then you divide Poor John into Poor and John and ran away into ran and away. So you get 4 elements or constituents in this sentence or from this sentence. So these are called constituents, and you are breaking down the sentence into immediate parts. So this one, Poor John, is immediate breaking down or elements of Poor John ran away, and Poor and John are immediate constituents of Poor John. So here at the beginning you have a sentence, then you have the subject, this should be here, you have the subject and predicate, and from grammatical point of view you can say noun phrase and verb phrase, and in the subject you have a noun and which is modified by a pre-modifier adjective, and which is adjective is Poor and John is noun, and in the verb phrase or in the predicate you have a verb and a particle or an adverb maybe, then you have an adverb and a particle, ran and away. So these are the immediate constituents, or you can say these are the ultimate constituents, because after them you cannot break them down, and if you break them down they will lose their meaning. So here comes the question of tree diagram. Tree diagram is a way of showing this structural analysis or dividing these things into different branches and nodes and to reach finally the ultimate constituents. So in tree diagram you have a sentence, and then that sentence is divided into 2 branches, and then each of these branches is again divided into its relevant branches. Like here you have subject, this subject should be here, and here is a predicate, and then subject consists of an adjective and noun, Poor and John, and predicate consists of, this branch consists of a verb and a particle, that is ran and away. So let us look at some definition, or look at some definition. An immediate constituent. Immediate constituent is a word or a group of words that functions as a single unit within a hierarchical structure. So here is the hierarchy. You have greater at first you have the sentence, then you have the broken branches, and then it again is broken down into smaller parts or smaller elements or constituent. The ultimate constituents. They are the smallest meaningful units which any given construction can be broken down to, consisting of a morpheme at the morphological level and a word at the syntactic level. So sometimes you can have a morpheme directly and sometimes at morphological level, but from the aspect of syntactic analysis we call them word, not morpheme. That is why it is called that. It is said here that ultimate constituents can be morphemes as well as word from syntactic analysis. The linguistic procedure which divides sentences into their component parts or constituents in this way is known as constituent analysis. The segmentation of the sentence, segmentation means division or dividing, breaking down. The segmentation of the sentence up into its immediate constituents by using binary cutting. Binary means 2. So at each level, you cut the prior level into 2 elements. So here the sentence is broken down into 2 branches and then again into 2 parts. Again, if you have other elements, then you should go on cutting, go on having binary cutting as long as you need. So by using binary cuttings, units, its ultimate constituents are obtained. So after binary cuttings, you reach the ultimate constituents. And it is an important approach to the realization of the nature of language called immediate constituent analysis. Immediate constituent analysis is based on the notion that a sentence is just not a linear string of words, but a sequence of components or group of words. This group of words are called constituents. When they are joined by horizontal line, they are said to be in construction with each other. So Paul and John, these 2 words have some relationship, and you can join Paul and John by a horizontal line. So Paul and John is a constituent, and also Paul and John separately also constituent, but they are called ultimate constituent. The construction establishes relationship between the constituents. So we understand the relationship between Paul and John, ran away, and also Paul, John, and ran away. When these constituents are considered as a part of successive unraveling of a sentence, that is from one level to the next, and shows us the relationship in between them and between other constituents, they are called as immediate constituents. That is next element of a sentence. Thus a sentence is cut into 2 parts and again into 2 parts, and this continues till the smallest unit or morpheme is arrived. You can say meaningful unit is arrived. Least possible meaningful units are arrived. So what is tree diagram? Tree diagram is one of the most common ways to create a visual representation of syntactic structure, and there are a number of ways of showing tree diagram or relationship. You can use labeling, and you can use some symbols like art for article, N for noun, NP for noun phrase, VP for verb phrase. So you can use them to label the parts of the tree to capture the hierarchical organization of those parts in the underlying structure of phrases and sentences. So tree diagram is a kind of upside tree, upside down. The root is on the up and the branches are down. So it shows hierarchical organization of the constituents from sentences to the ultimate constituents. Baker defines tree diagrams in these words. Tree diagrams are used quite widely in scholarly works and textbooks. Their major justification is that they provide quick and efficient representation of some important organizational properties of individual sentences. So it shows or it represents the information in a way which shows relationship between each other and also relationship with the next level and the previous level. Here is an example of tree diagram. So just think that this is an upside down tree, and this is the root of the tree, and these are the branches. So a young girl with an umbrella chased the boy. This is a sentence, and this is a root. And then we know that tree diagram has a binary cutting. We break down this sentence into 2 branches, just like a tree. And how? Subject and predicate, or you can say NP, noun phrase, and verb phrase, if you want to use a grammatical labeling. A young girl with an umbrella chased the boy. And then this constituent So this one is an immediate constituent to this one, and these are immediate constituents to this one. In tree diagram, we call them branches. Say a young girl with an umbrella is a branch, chase the boy is a branch. But this branch is again broken down into two branches further. So this point where two branches meet, this is called nodes, N-O-D-E-S. So at nodes, the branches are divided, or a number of branches consist in or join together at the level of or at the point of a node. So a young girl with an umbrella is divided into two parts, a young girl with an umbrella, because they are also having some kind of grammatical elements or labeling. A young girl, we know that with an umbrella, this is a noun prepositional phrase or an adverbial phrase functionally. Then a young girl is again divided into a determiner, article, and the noun phrase, and the noun phrase is again divided into its pre-modifier, adjective, and girl. In the same way, with an umbrella, with is a preposition and this is a noun phrase, and you have determiner and umbrella, and on the other hand, chase the boy, this is a verb and this is a noun phrase. In the verb phrase, you have a verb phrase and a noun phrase. And then chased, we know that chased is the past form of chase, so it has chase and ed, that is past form, and the boy, the is determiner and boy is a noun. So young girl, a young girl with an umbrella chased the boy, these are the ultimate constituents. There are two other ways, this should be TWO, of showing the constituents with vertical lines and with brackets, for example. So in our previous slide, we have seen the vertical lines, but sometimes you can, that was the T diagram using branches and nodes. But here are the two ways. You can use a vertical line. So for the first cut, you use one vertical line, and for the second cut, you use two vertical lines, and for the third cut or cuts, you use three such vertical lines. In the same way, you can use a bracketing. Here is another example. I am giving a presentation. So here is the subject and here is the predicate or verb phrase, and this is at the first cut you have the ultimate constituent. But am giving a presentation, am giving is verb phrase, and this is a noun phrase, and again you have an auxiliary verb and a principal verb, and the principal verb is again having two morphemes, give and ing, and here in the noun phrase you have a determiner, article, and a noun. What are the features of a T diagram? The idea is that the idea on which T diagram is based on is that a sentence is a sequence of components. So T diagram shows that a sentence has some components which are sequentially ordered or presented. And sentence is a kind of construction. It's just like putting some words in an order and you get the meaning. For example, here you have I am giving a presentation. Here I and am giving a presentation at the first node are immediate constituents. And finally you get I am, give, ing, a, present, ation, this is a suffix. They are ultimate constituents. And order of elements is unchanged. So here you have noun phrase, then verb phrase. And the verb phrase consists of some words which are presented in an order. So the elements are ordered in a way which remains unchanged usually. Immediate constituent cards are usually binary. That is, you have two cards or two constituents after each card. It isolates the constituents hierarchically. So the relationship is between the elements presented at a level with the elements presented at a previous level or at the next level. You can go for labeled IC analysis. You can go for just formal labeling on the basis of grammatical category or form, like barking dogs seldom bite. You have here noun phrase and verb phrase. Instead of the barking dogs and seldom bite at the very beginning, you use a grammatical category. Noun phrase is the grammatical category and verb phrase is also grammatical category. And we know that noun phrase consists of an adjective and a noun, and verb phrase consists of maybe adverb and verb here. So here grammatical labeling, adjective, noun, adverb, verb are used. You can also use functional labeling on the basis of the function of the constituents, whether it's a subject or a predicate, whether it's a modifier or a head, whether it's a verbal component or a complement, or it can be a subordinator or dependent unit. So it can be the structure of coordination, like independent unit, coordinator, and independent unit. So you can use functional labeling or grammatical labeling. There are two grammar theories which sought to teach how a sentence is generated. These are the linear grammar and the immediate constituent grammar. The linear theory taught that a sentence is generated on a very simple model consisting of three elements: subject, verb, and object. So you have a subject at the beginning, then you have a verb and their object. Here you have another example. Poor John ran away. Poor John ran away. Here it is the sign of a summation. It means sentence, and sentence consists of the sum of all these elements. You have a noun phrase, and noun phrase consists of adjective and noun plus verb phrase, which consists of here verb and adverb. Tree structures express a fundamental insight of syntactic analysis. That insight is that sentences do not simply consist of strings of lexical categories. Lexical means words here. Rather, within any sentence, words are grouped together to form phrases, which then combine with each other to form still larger phrases and clauses maybe, and then finally you get the sentence. So here you have the sentence, and then noun phrase and verb phrase, and then verb phrase consists of verb and noun phrase, and further. Immediate constituent analysis has some limitations, and I have already told you that immediate constituent analysis was proposed by Bloomfield, and later on Noam Chomsky came up with his generative theory, and which showed some limitations of immediate constituent analysis. It is not possible to analyze such structures. For example, there are some sentences which are structurally similar, but semantically they are different. Immediate constituent analysis analyzes or considers only the grammatical or lexical parts, but it does not consider semantic quality. Semantic means the meaning. It does not consider the meaning. Sometimes you can have very good combination of grammatical elements, but it may not be semantically viable or semantically meaningful. For example, Robert is easy to flatter and Robert is eager to flatter. There is no syntactic differences in between these two sentences. So here you have subject, and then you have a be verb, and then you have complement, and then you have an infinitive verb or infinitive phrase. But just think of the meaning of these two sentences. The meanings are not same. Robert is easy to flatter. Here Robert is not a subject, though it is at the beginning. It's a noun phrase. But here in the second sentence, Robert is a subject, doer. That Robert does the action of flattering. But here Robert does not do the action of flattering. Rather, it is easy to flatter Robert. So somebody can flatter Robert easily. So here you have the same structure, but the meanings are different. But if we analyze these two sentences from using immediate constituent analysis or tree diagram, we'll find that all these elements have the same relationship among them, but of course meanings are different. So it cannot get hold of the semantic aspect of the sentence. When the same string of words can be associated with more than one tree structure, it is said to be structurally ambiguous. So there can be some sentences which are structurally ambiguous. For example, I bring new pens and pencil. Though you have only one word after and, a coordinator, indeed you have all these things. I mean, I bring new pens and I bring new pencil. And also here new, the adjective, refers to only pens, or pencil or pencils are also new here. So it is structurally ambiguous, and IC analysis or tree diagram cannot analyze these sentences or sentences like this within its purview. That is why this is another limitation of immediate constituent analysis, that if the sentences are structurally ambiguous, it cannot analyze it. So here is the sentence: I bring plus new plus pens and pencil. Or I bring new pens plus and pencil. Okay, let's move forward to differences between DP structure and surface structure. Sorry. So we have seen that immediate constituent analysis cannot analyze if the sentences are structurally ambiguous. And remember, from our childhood, we haven't seen and learned and used all the sentences that we can make or produce using our language. Of course, we are not taught all the sentences, all these structures that we are able to use. Indeed, we are taught some basic structures of sentences, and then we can change the structure and we can produce new structure and new sentences. Okay. That is why it is important to understand DP structure and surface structure and the differences between them. Okay, so what is surface structure? It can be defined as the syntactic form they take as actual sentences. So what is visible, what you can see as the elements of a sentence. Sorry. And it was proposed by Bloomfield, and these are the examples that we have already discussed with another noun, Robert. John is eager to please and John is easy to please. So from the structural aspects, both the sentences have same structure, and you see a subject and then a verb and then a complement or adjective and then an infinitive verb. So structurally there is no difference, but I have already shown that there is difference between these two sentences semantically. It means that though we see particular structure of these sentences, but indeed there is an underlying level of structure, underlying level of meaning, and we can easily understand when you say John is easy to please. We understand that John is not a subject here, rather it is easy to please John, and anybody can easily please John. So we know that though John is here at the beginning of the sentence, but here John is not the subject, John is an object here. How can we understand that? We know that in passive sense or in passive voice, the object is presented or object is placed at the beginning, though it is not the doer of the action. So the basic, we understand that you have John here, but indeed in underlying structure, John is not presented or placed at the beginning of the sentence. And that is called DP structure. So DP structure is one of the most important concepts proposed by Chomsky. The generativism paradigm claims that or the generative theory claims that the concept of structural analysis proposed by structuralism paradigm is too shallow. It only reaches the level of surface structure, as we have already seen it while we are discussing immediate constituent analysis and T-diagram. Forms of sentences resulted from modification and transformation. So in generative grammar, as I have already told you, that we have learned only some limited number of structures, and then we can change it and we can produce new sentences. So you understand that subject plus verb, subject is the doer of the action and verb refers to the action. And whether you have any change in the structure, you understand that there is a subject, though the subject is deleted. So you modify the basic structure, the deep structure, and then you get the surface structure. But when you get the meaning out of it, you use the deep structure. Consider these sentences. You close the door, and the structure is subject, then verb, and then the object. But when you say the door is closed by you, in this sentence you have the door at the beginning, but it is not the doer of the action. But we know that. But how do you understand that the meaning of this sentence, sentence number 2? We understand the meaning of this sentence using the structure of the first one. And also when you say close the door, you delete the first you. Here you is not present, but you understand that you is here. So close the door is at the surface level, and you close the door as the deep level. So subject plus verb plus object, this is a deep structure, but surface structure here is verb plus object. Subject is not here, so you have deleted the first element, but you know that the subject is there. The first sentence is active, second is passive, and the last is imperative. However, if you take a look at them closely, you will find that those three are very closely related, even identical. There is no difference in the meaning of these three sentences, though their structures are different. They seem to be identical since they have the same underlying abstract representation that is called deep structure. So at deep structure level, there is no difference between them or among them. They are identical. But on the surface, at surface level, you have the differences. Deep structure is defined as an abstract level of structural organization in which all the elements determining structural interpretation are represented. If you want to analyze the relation of those three sentences, the first you have to know the deep structure of them, since deep structure is the input of transformation rules, that you have transformed the first sentence or the structure of the first sentence into the second one or into the third one. We cannot apply transformation rules if we do not have deep structure. Transformation rules are sets of rules which will change or move constituents in the structures derived from the phrase structure rules. There is another important aspect or theory, phrase structure rules, and following phrase structure rules, you can delete, you can modify, you can move one element from one place to another, and you can change the deep structure level and you get the surface structure. Here is a deep structure. The subject sentence consists of a noun phrase and a verb phrase, that is a subject, noun or pronoun, you close the door. This is a deep structure. And then, so in this structure, you have structural description like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 is you, close 2, B, 3, and door 4. But when you change this structure, say you want to get a passive sentence from this structure. So what you do, following the SC rule, you have the structural change. So the 3 and 4 comes at the beginning, the door. And then you have the be verb is, and then following passive voice rule, you have the past participle of the verb clause, and then you have a by, okay, preposition, and then you have the doer subject. So you see that it was 1, 2, 3, 4 in DP structure level, but you have the structural change 3, 4, 2 and 1, and you get the surface structure. The door is closed by you. Just like mathematics, you have 4 elements and then you can change. Sometimes you can delete, like if you say sorry, you close the door, and in imperative sentence you say close the door. So what has happened to you? You have deleted this first element, or you. So you can delete, you can modify, you can move from one place to another, and then you get the surface structure. The surface structure is passive transformation rules. Here you get the surface structure and you get the passive voice. So this is the way to show the transformation rules. You see SD 1, 2, 3, 4, then a structural change 0, 2, 3, 4, and then you can have surface structure, close the door. And number 1, that is U, 0 is the deletion and U has been deleted. From the above example, it can be concluded that DP structure then is a pure representation of thematic relation, the relationship between all these words or all the words of a sentence. Anything which is interpreted as the subject or object of a given predicate will be in the subject or object position of that predicate at DP structure, no matter what it is found as surface structure. So it doesn't matter whether at surface structure you have the subject or a noun or a predicate or a verb in a change position. Indeed, you mean them in DP structure, they will be in the same positions or in the same order. So in the surface structure, form used in communication. When we use the sentences, in communication we use the surface structure, but for meaning we use the DP structure. You jump is a DP structure, but when you say it's a jump, and this is the surface structure. In order to get from this DP structure to the surface structure, jump, what is needed is not an additional phrase structure rule, but rather a transformational rule. This transformation will delete the NP-U, which has been generated by the phrase structure grammar. Like this tree diagram, you have NP and VP, U and jump. This is DP structure, and then U is deleted, and you have got only jump remains, and you have got the surface structure. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you have understood all of them: immediate constituent analysis, tree diagram, as well as differences between surface structure and DP structure. You can have questions in the comment section. I'll try to give you feedback. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.